Hey, hey, welcome back again to another edition of What You Reading. People ask me all the time, what are you reading? Not writing? What are you reading? I guess they want the perspective of a professional writer on stuff. So I show up here once a week and tell you what I've been reading for entertainment, for enlightenment, education, or research. And this week it is Sharpe's Tiger by Bernard Cornwell. This is my third time reading this book. It's my favorite of the Sharpe novels, and it it's the only one I've really ever reread. It's got everything I like. I mean, I like Sharpe. I like all the novels, but this to me is the best one. And chronologically, it's the first Sharpe novel. It's the 15th one written, but it's the first novel chronologically because we meet Richard Sharpe as a young man. He's he's joined the army out of the gutters because at least he'd get fed. So he's working for the King's Shilling as a rifleman. Oh, well, actually, a musket man as this novel begins. And there's a lot of firsts in this novel as Sharpe, he's a young man in India as the British Army attempts to take down the last of the Mughal emperors. These were Muslim overlords, warlords, who were overseeing the vast Hindu population from their enormous fortresses dotted across the country. These were descendants of the Mongol Khans, and they had converted to Islam, and they were ruling India with an iron fist and interfering with business. So the British had to take them out. So Sharpe is just a soldier, and there's a bit of a romance thing with a camp follower who's been widowed, and Sharpe is introduced to his first rifle in this. The rifle is a relatively new development in 1799, and he's introduced to the uses and accuracy and recommendations of using a rifle. And the story largely deals with the siege of the fortress at Seringapatam. And it's this enormous concentric defenses, a stronghold that the Mughal leader thinks is impenetrable. And it's one of the things that I love about this book. I love a siege story. I love stories about siegecraft, about, mines and counter mines, about forlorn hopes and siege cannons and breaches and all the rest of it. I could go on and on about moats and the glacis and Vauban defenses, but I won't bore you with any of that. But this goes into some detail, accurate historical detail, about how the trenches were dug and armored and shored up, creeping closer and closer to the walls at Seringapatam, so that the British could set up these enormous siege weapons to bring down walls and towers and create a breach so they can get into the city. And that's the big suspense MacGuffin here. Sharpe is taken prisoner and learns that there is a trap set for the British and native troops who are going to try to take the fortress. And this trap would kill hundreds of them and basically end the siege. And Sharpe has to not only escape captivity, face down a tiger, all the rest of it. He's got to get out of there with a whole skin. And there's a lot of really tense moments in this story, and a lot of great Sharpe moments as we see the young man that would eventually rise to become an officer within the ranks of the British Army in the 95th Rifles during the Napoleonic War. It's also, we encounter Arthur Wellesley, who would one day become Duke of Wellington. And for Wellesley, this was his big moment in his military career. He was considered an Indian general. He was not a proper British general because he served in India, which the British military saw as a backwater. He was unworthy of regard or respect because how hard is it, to ride herd over a bunch of I don't want to use any terms from the period, but what they saw as inferior people. And of course, the struggles in India were anything but that. He was up against an implacable, clever enemy with thousands of troops and modern day weaponry and modern day tactics and all the rest of it. And this is where Wellesley made his name in the British Army, using tactics that some of which he learned from studying George Washington's tactics during the Revolutionary War. That's not in Cornwell's book. That's just something I know. The other reason to read this book is Obadiah Hakeswell. The origin of Obadiah Hakeswell, a sergeant who would plague Sharpe throughout most of his career in these books. And Obadiah Hakeswell here is presented as a sergeant. He now, because this is early in the series, he outranks Sharpe and takes every advantage. He's cruel, he's vindictive, he's cowardly, he's self-serving, and he's quite crazy. He's a nutty, sadistic son of a bitch, and just completely irredeemable. And boy, you love to hate him in this book. There's just no rotten thing you can think of that he doesn't think of first. And as always, he justifies all of his actions, no matter how horrible, from murder to rape, by saying that it was written in the scriptures. It just justifies his every action. So if you like the Sharpe novels and you haven't read this one yet, please do. If you have not read the Sharpe novels, this is a pretty good place to begin, because it really is the origin of Richard Sharpe and the origin of Obadiah Hakeswell. And that's it. That's what I read. Told you about it. Now I'm going to get out of here. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching.